Can we talk about dating? Is rough out there. If dating feels rough right now, I don't think it's because you're bad at dating. I think you're spending time in the wrong rooms. And I didn't realize this until friends started asking me how I always seem to meet partners who were kind, were grounded, and doing okay. And not worried about my pockets and supportive of my ambition. When I look back, I noticed something consistent across every long-term relationship I've had. And today I'm going to explain the pattern first, and then I'll tell you the stories so you can decide what applies to you. Most people meet their partners in a few predictable ways. For dating apps, so like the Hinges of the world, it's about 40%. Through friends, 20%. At work or professionally, about 11%. A church or faith group, 12%. Through shared interests, 10%. At school, 8%. And through family, 6%. That's a lot of places you can meet someone. And pretty decent percentages across the board, especially for online dating apps and through friends. I want to share a few stories with you. My most meaningful long-term relationship came through a friend, and I met this person at a bar, and we have so many stories about meeting someone in the club and what does that mean for them. So I'm gonna get to it, so stay tuned. I will come back to it because the bar is not the point. We talk a lot about meet cutes like they're random, like luck, like fate. And they're really not. They're really about your environment, where you're putting yourself. When I look back at everyone I seriously dated, the pattern wasn't who they were necessarily, it was where we were. And I want to start with dating apps because that's the most popular, because that's the one that I think I have so many stories of friends who met through dating apps and are thriving, and people who just cannot stand dating apps. So I'm gonna share my most successful Hinge relationship. And it's interesting because I was trying to remember like why. And I'm pretty sure at some point I had screenshots of it, but I deleted all of those, so I don't have it anymore. I do not remember his bio, but I can tell you exactly what he was wearing in his pictures. And I can tell you like the background, like the fact that he was traveling and stuff like that. That's important because what I was noticing there was the travel. I travel a lot, so that's important to me. The care he took in selecting the photos, but also in the way he was dressed and presenting, the intention, the signaling of what he chose. Little things show you how people do the big things. Once we started dating, I found out that he had a PhD in machine learning, and every morning he studied his work and he ironed every single piece of clothing and all that stuff about him, which affirmed what I was thinking, because at first I thought it was just a quirk, but then I realized it was actually a pattern, my pattern. Because even online, I wasn't meeting people randomly. I was responding to signals that matched how I already lived. And once I noticed that online, I started seeing my previous patterns in my past relationships, but also elsewhere, especially in the way that people meet. And I met people through shared interests. And I think that's my biggest bucket, meeting people through shared interests. Another way people meet partners is through shared interests. And I think that got 10%. And even though that's currently sitting at 10%, I think that number is going to go up and come close to meeting through friends or meeting through a dating app, because I just think that with AI, dating apps, general online fatigue, people meeting in person is just going to grow higher. So let me tell you about how I met someone on the train platform. We were both commuting. I was wearing my college jacket. It was supposed to rain that day, and I have this rain jacket. Still have it to this day. And he started a conversation with me. He was like, "Oh, did you actually go there?" And I was so offended. I was like, "Bruh, all this student loan debt I need to pay off. You asking me if I actually went to this college." So I was like, "Yeah, I did." He's like, "Oh, because I used to go there when I used to run track." So a conversation started around our hobbies, shared interests. I found out what college he went to. I was familiar with that college. We didn't meet because either of us was looking necessarily. We met because our lives were already moving in similar directions and we had overlap. And my jacket was a signal of that. And obviously we met at the train station in a neighborhood that we lived in, so we also had that in common as well. That was another pattern too, of the jacket, the neighborhood we met in, and that was probably more cultural. And then we took the train into the city. We got to learn more about each other's jobs and stuff, so that solidified that as well. That's one way. And another way was a relationship that started at a market. And if you've ever been to any of these boutique markets, some of them are free, but some of them are super curated, so they charge a cover charge. So already that tells me someone has discretionary funds. They have experimental food there and different scents and soaps and all these different things to explore and be adventurous about. So again, if you're coming there, I know that you're adventurous. So if I meet someone in this space, I know that you have time to explore these things. I know that you have money, and I know that you're also curious, things that I care about. So nobody actually ends up in places like that accidentally. You had to choose it. You had to choose to be in that space. So even though I wasn't actively screening for people or screening people, the environments I was putting myself in and they were putting themselves in was screening them in some ways, right? So I think that's something that I want to capture. And last but not least, I mentioned at the top of this, the most meaningful long-term relationship in my life came through friends. And as I mentioned, we met at a bar. And what matters here the most is that long-term friendship, because I met that friend who introduced us in college. I was part of my student government in college, which meant that I did a lot of leadership trips and conferences. So at one of these conferences, I met this guy. I don't remember why we connected, but I'm pretty sure. I'm sitting on a stool and almost lost my life. Anyway, met this friend through going to a college trip, and I'm pretty sure we connected because we might have been like the few Africans there. It's always interesting when you're in these spaces and you're like, oh, I'm the only Black person, I'm the only African person, I'm the only whatever. And then we added each other on Instagram, LinkedIn, all the stuff. And a number of years later, I don't know, like 5-6 years later, I was on vacation celebrating one of my friend's birthdays. I posted it on Instagram. That person saw it. They were like, oh, I'm also here with my friends. And then we ended up meeting at a bar. And here we are, long after. The way that worked was being open. It doesn't have to, I think there's a theory that I'm forgetting right now. And the idea is that your most immediate friends are not the ones who will always give you opportunities. It's their wider circle. So this guy I hadn't actively talked to in a while, but by staying in loose contact through social media, when the time is right, I was able to meet my person through him. So that was pretty cool. Friendships. You're looking at that friend group and my friend group's ability to travel, the flexibility to travel. They were there because they were celebrating a milestone. I was there because I was also celebrating a milestone in terms of a birthday. And they actually chose that location because they were looking for the cheapest flight from where they were. And I don't remember why my friend chose a location for her birthday. It was a party city, so maybe that's why she chose it. The moment didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of years of choosing environments that gave me room to move, and all the people I met and dated along the years, they were also building optionality through their lives and through their decisions. And this is why I talk so much about optionality, optionality, because it allows you to live a lifestyle that is nimble enough to meet who you want to meet, be where you want to be. And it's not necessarily a career buzzword, because optionality really shapes who you meet, what you tolerate, and what becomes possible for you. And it boils down to financial health, because financial health matters, because money buys you time. Time puts you in better environments, and better environments introduce you to more aligned things that you want in your life, including the people that you meet, the relationships that you want to foster, whether that's friendships, whether that's your life partner. And none of these people came in my life with me necessarily chasing it, but I was choosing the rooms I was in and the environments I was in. The rest worked itself out. If you're ready to design a life with more room to move, this is the work that I do. So I'll put the link in the comments so we can work together. But also I talk about this all day, every day. Subscribe. See you tomorrow.